Yeah, first I want to thank everybody for coming and being patient. It's taken a little while here. We had, one in the queue, so, it's all over. But I was just going to kind of run down what we've done, and then we can take it from there. So we got Nikita Ahochuk from San Jose for a 2024 fifth round pick. It's a young player we really like, but I'll talk about him later. And then earlier this afternoon, we also were able to get Kevin Rooney signed to a 1-year deal. So to be able to get him back, Kevin, it's been a little bit of a tough year with the injury, but to have him back has been, is a big plus for us. We made a trade yesterday with Riley Demonani, and then for Emilio Pettersson. And we just thought with our position right now, with what we have in the organization, a center for a winger made sense for us. Brad Pascal and his staff and the scouts and myself, we all felt like this is something we could do to add some more depth at center. So that was a positive thing for us. Probably the bigger one that we haven't discussed was the trade of Noah Hanifin. Obviously, that was a tough, it's always tough to trade players like Noah. He's been here a long time. We have a great relationship, and to see him go was tough. But like I said before, if I wasn't able to get guys signed, I needed to get assets back for it. I wasn't going to let people just walk. So, unfortunately, we weren't able to come to agreement with him. But to get Daniel Miramanov, a first-round pick, which could have been in 25, but today Vegas made a trade, so we will get an unconditional 26. So that's and then we have a third-round pick in 24, and if they win a round, we get a second in 25. So, those are kind of the deals that were done, and obviously the Tanev deal we've dealt with most of everybody in the media, but those are the ones, and just wanted to open up if you have any questions.
Great, let's start.
Yeah, if I could just take you back, you just touched on it, but take you back to the Gaudreau departure and how that kind of galvanized your approach with those 5 high-profile guys you inherited when you took over the GM role, and how that kind of that influenced you in terms of how you were going to handle those big 5 tickets. Can you speak to that?
For sure, but it wasn't just Gaudreau. It was, Brody left, Giordano left. There was more. I mean, it kind of, as I think back over time, that was the most recent that made me think, if I can't get things done, we have to kind of regroup and move forward. We're going to have to get assets for people. And even if you're in a situation where maybe right now, hey, we're battling for the playoffs, but to be able to get assets to kind of regroup, we had to do it. To let those guys go just didn't make any sense. And even though we wanted to get Johnny signed, I think we thought we were going to, and then when we didn't, it does hurt not to have anything back for him.
How did your sort of goals and planning for those players evolve as the last 10 months since you were promoted sort of happened?
Yeah, well, I'm glad you say that. People think it's been the last month or two, but really it's been the summer. And, as a group, we've been working together. We've been trying to come up with a plan, what we felt were fair offers for the players. And, the one thing when you're unrestricted, it's your right. You can sign a contract or you don't have to sign a contract, and we wanted to do what we thought was fair by the players and that worked for us moving forward. And obviously we didn't come to terms with any of the guys. And I think as you move forward, we tried to get ahead of it earlier. So I kind of knew, where everybody stood. And then as it went along, and obviously Tyler Toffoli was the first one, and then Nikita, and then we kind of worked our way through. So, it's tough. All great players, all good people, and I wish them all the best. But again, I knew we had to do this for the organization and the franchise moving forward.
You've seen the guys in the locker room continue to fight and continue to scrap to stay in this playoff picture, despite some really talented teammates getting moved away. How do you signal sort of the support of management to them in that fight right now when you've had to deal with guys who would have made that fight a little bit easier probably?
It's amazing, this leadership group. I mean, our coaching staff, Michael Backlund and the whole group. I mean, it's Coleman, it's Huberto, it's Kadri. It's not just one person. I mean, it's Uyghur, Markstrom. It's all these guys put together are doing it night in and night out. And it's hard because I think when I played a long time ago, there was trade stuff. It was in the paper. You see it on TV, but now it's out there every day. There's stuff every day. And I wish I could have calmed the noise, and I wish I could have done more, but you can't. but the way these guys handled it and the way they've risen to the challenge every day, it's very impressive, and it says a lot about that team down there and the belief they have in each other. So, it's never, it's never easy when you lose friends and good people and everything like that. But in the end, we know it's a business, and everybody's they come to work, and that's what these guys do. They come to work every day, and it's a special group, and we're gonna, keep pushing forward here right to the end.
Jacob Markstrom ended up as part of that trade speculation over the last few weeks, and we had heard about his comments about how he felt it all went down with the trade speculation around him. What can you say about him being in those trade conversations, and were you close to moving him at all at the deadline?
Well, first, I'm not going to speculate on if we were moving him or if we weren't moving him. I mean, the bottom line is these are the guys I moved today, and the guys that are here now are part of the Calgary Flames moving forward. But it is hard. It's Jacob, but there's a lot of people they were talking about, and that's the thing. You wish it wasn't, because they have families. I know what it's like. It's very hard. It's an uncomfortable thing. You have kids, you have families, and I totally understand it. And it's you wish you could keep it out of the media, but that's just not the way it is today.
You speak to the challenge of trying to extract the best return, and whether it's Toffoli last summer, a month ago, last week, yesterday, or Wednesday versus today, and just how when to pull the trigger.
It's hard. I mean, that's hey, I'll admit this is my first time, but I have a great group of people helping all the time, and they're the support that you have as a group, especially in these are hard. These aren't easy things to do. I mean, it's been a lot of major players on our team, so I think you talk to teams and you figure out who's involved first of all, who has interest, and then as you go through, what you can get back from each team and what makes the most sense for you. So you obviously, everybody wants first round picks and lots of them and amazing trades, and in fantasy you can do that stuff, and I used to do that with baseball, but when you go to the real world, it's very hard. I mean, and you're trying to get as much as you can, and I know people always say, well, why didn't you get this top prospect or that? But there is a market, and you're feeling it out as you go through, and when it comes to the end, when you've asked for everything you can ask for, and people, no, I'm not going to do that. Nope, that's not going to work for me. That's when you kind of say, okay, I think we got to move now and make the deal. And you have to be happy with the return. If you thought to wait right till the deadline today and you'd get a little bit more, but also you see the market wasn't quite there where everybody wants 2 or 3 or 4 first round picks for everybody. I mean, I get it. I'd like that too, but it's just, that's not the way it works.
Great. If I can circle back on Jacob.
Yeah.
Is there a relationship to be patched up there, or are you comfortable with the way things are with Jacob and his happiness, I suppose, to be on this roster?
Well, the one thing I know, Jacob's a competitor, and he cares about these guys. And as you've seen, I know there's been noise, but all he does is play well. All he does is play well. So Jacob and I are going to be fine. I'm obviously not on the road trip, but the one thing I know, he cares about this team, he cares about this organization, and he's going to be exactly what he's been, one of the best goalies in the league. And that's
been in this situation before, or at least saw from an assistant's point of view as a general manager. Now it's your position, the buck stops with you. What part of your, situation room with your group led to some of these discussions, and how much back and forth was involved in that for you?
Yeah, I mean, we work as a group together. We had all the scouts here. I mean, if there's amateur guys involved, you're talking to the amateur guys that know them the best. Todd Button knows most of the guys. So, you say, what's more valuable? That's the one thing when you're I trust my guys, and I believe in each one of them. So when they tell me, I think this is the better deal compared to that pick, these picks, this player, that's what goes into it. I mean, there's a lot. You just don't kind of make one phone call and it ends. There's multiple calls back multiple times. I mean, the Lindholm trade, there was lots of phone calls. And you're reaching back out to every team to make sure, okay, I'm getting ready to make a move here. Would you be willing to do what I asked? And if it's a yes, okay. If not, you move on.
You mentioned, obviously, you've made a bunch of trades. I think there's one guy you re-signed, one guy is still pending UFA. Are you able to provide any updates on sort of how things are looking for Oliver Kylington?
Yeah, I wanted to make sure Oliver felt comfortable. It's been a long year and a half, and that's what even we've reached out to his agent just to see where he feels and if he wants to continue to do this. So, that's it's a little bit different than everyone else because you're really just thinking about him right now. You're not, you just want to make sure he's happy. He wants to continue to play, and, you look how well he's playing. So hopefully, we'll work kind of forward and hopefully we can get something done.
Is there less concern there? Like he's talked about his gratitude for the organization. You've talked about not wanting to risk losing guys for nothing, and so is there maybe a little more confidence that he's willing to stay here?
I'm hoping so. I mean, we have a great relationship. There's no issue. I just, I want to make sure this is something he wants to do moving forward. And it seems like he's having fun, and I don't want to pressure him in any way. But I think he's been playing really, really well for us. So I couldn't be more happy. I hope he feels the same way.
Going back to today's deal and some of the previous ones, we've seen a lot of young D join your organization now. Is that coincidence, or is that an area you identified as an area you'd like to improve on this group?
Well, just with what we thought we may be losing moving forward, we'd like to kind of bring in. And we brought in different guys. Some guys that are playing more defensive style game, some guys with more offensive upside, and we're trying to build it that way. So, I mean, moving forward, we're going to have a lot of young D, and that's great because they're going to grow together. Hopefully we find pairings down there, and one day they're pairings in the NHL, and, we get to where we want to go is be consistently in the playoffs and eventually going to win a Stanley Cup. I mean, that's always the goal, and that's why, when I said with all the stuff that's been going on, it's been a few months, and how well our guys have handled this and played. I mean, obviously the start of the year was very disappointing. The first 10 games put us in a hole, but to see the way these guys have rallied and to bring up young guys, Zari, Pospisil, now we got Pelletier, all these guys with Coronado, that's what we said. We wanted to kind of integrate some of these young guys, and it's made a huge difference for the team. It really has. And I think the record kind of from that point on has shown these young guys have taken a big step, and that's what we want to do. We want to continue to add young guys, but we have a great veteran core, and we believe we have to continue to do that moving forward.
It was sort of out there that after those first 10 games, there was a pause on negotiations. How much did that slow start sort of affect your approach?
I think it was a little bit the players and us. We wanted to kind of see where it was going, and see how we were going to do. And I think, as we turned the corner and we turned it around, we picked up conversations again. And like I said, obviously it takes two people to agree to a deal, and we just couldn't get it done. So as much as we love the players and, we're thankful that they were here and what they did for the organization, we just knew it was time. We had to move on.
So do you have to, you have some veteran players in their mid-30s who are under contract for the foreseeable future, but, those guys might be interested in contending for a cup. Do you have to have conversations with those guys about the direction of the franchise moving?
Well, I'm hoping they see. I mean, even if you look at like Kadri's situation, when he plays with those two young guys, he's made them so much better. But I think they've helped him. I mean, to see him kind of bring them along, and I'm hoping that we can add players like that, and that's what our staff thinks. Everybody says they want to. I think it's a retool, bringing in young guys. With our veteran players that we have here, we believe we can turn this thing around, and I think they believe in the same thing. And I mean, and you're seeing it night in and night out. I think we're 10-4 in the last 14, and we've lost very good players. And you look at the game last night, I mean, to see the comments after, to see what the guys are doing, how they've rallied together, I couldn't be more proud. And I think that's what this team's all about. It's not one or two individuals, it's a whole team.
With how you've seen this team push over the last 14, was there any consideration not to moving some of the unrestricted free agents?
I couldn't get them signed. Tried even up to a week ago and just couldn't do it. So, I had to stick to what. I mean, it feels like it was yesterday, but a long time ago. If I couldn't get them done, I had to move them along. But I understand why you would think that, for sure.
Is it frustrating from that perspective, Craig, going back to the list of UFAs that you had? You got back signed, obviously, but now that we're here and you've said goodbye to some, is it kind of disappointing maybe from your end that you couldn't get one or two of those guys here on a longer term deal?
Yeah, I mean, you obviously love the players, wanted them to stay, but definitely had a price in my mind that was fair for both sides. And, that's one thing when you're a player, you definitely have the same rights too. And if you feel comfortable and you want to stay, you can sign. And if not, you can test the market at some point.
What's the scouting report on the new defenseman from San Jose?
You know what? If people will go on YouTube, he's got some huge hits, some big hits. He plays hard, puck, simple puck mover. But I think the one thing that the guys, he's a high character individual. From talking to people that know him, where he's played, right from junior all the way up. It's important for us to bring in, different type players, and I think he kind of. I think with Pahal, you've seen how he's come in and really fit in well with the group. I think with Nikita, he's going to come in and bring another element like that too. Play hard, finish checks, moves well, good size, but a little bit different than, he's not an offensive defenseman, but he's going to be a guy, where Miramanov, I think, has some offensive upside where you've seen it in the American League. He hasn't got a lot of time in the NHL, so, I want to give him I don't want to put a lot of pressure on him, but we'll see as he goes. But yeah.
Sorry. I always wondered what you guys do when you're in the queue. Is they watch YouTube highlights? Is that
We watch a lot of video. Yeah, they're up on the big screen like, once names come up as, you're talking about different players. When you're in there, you do watch a lot of video because you read the reports and you see what type of player they are. You hear the scouts say what they like about him, but it is nice to kind of watch the player, see what he is, see what they do well. And like I said, the one thing that we can offer here is some opportunity for younger guys to get a chance and prove themselves. I think similar to kind of Sharon Govich when we said maybe he didn't get to play as much as he'd like in New Jersey. We think he's got offensive upside, and he's done a really nice job this year. So, you're hoping by giving these other guys a chance. That's all they say they ever want. That's all I ever wanted. So, now if they're going to get it, they got to perform.
Craig, when you talk about veteran leadership, but I wonder too, like when you're looking at the Zaries, the Pospisos, like as this season's gone on, have you seen, all of those kids kind of taking a little piece of that responsibility and really kind of, feeling like their roles have kind of increased as the season's gone on and just, taking a chunk of it?
Well, you see kind of how they mature over the time, where they come in, they're not saying much, they're not talking, they're pretty quiet, but then you see how they've grown with the group and they feel comfortable with the group. And I think, which really helps, but I think it's because of our leaders kind of bringing them into the fold to say, hey, we're not over here and you're over here because you're a young guy. They've really brought them together. So I do think it's going to be great. And usually, when you get to the NHL and you talk about character and leadership, usually these young guys have done that somewhere. So they are bringing that. They're quiet at first, but I do see it coming out of them a little bit. Maybe not to where it's going to be in 5 years from now, but, they definitely take huge steps as their leadership also.
Aside from Osterley, were there any moves made to keep guys eligible for the AHL playoffs?
Yeah, we had two. So we did Pelche and Coronado, just because with Pelche, he has not played a lot of hockey this year with the injury. And with Matty, we want to, keep him going and keep him playing as much as you can. So we did it just in case to cover ourselves, but, they're going to be with the team tomorrow.
Craig, how's your Russian?
I know. I always I got to get a dictionary and get going. I don't know. It's, the one thing is, I just tell the scouts, identify the players for me, tell me who you want, and it's just, for whatever reason, the Russians have been guys we identified, and we feel like if we give them a chance. So I'm going to have to work on it, though. But Miramanov, when I spoke to him on the phone, his English is great. Like, I thought, hello? I'm okay, this is good. So, yeah, I got to work on my Russian for sure.
Greg, I know last winter Kevin Rooney was kind of wondering, if his NHL opportunity had, evaporated a bit on him. Can you speak to what you've seen since he came back from shoulder surgery and and why he deserves the success today?
You know what? It came even before that with Kevin. He changed up his training. He went. I think he went to California this year. He decided to change it up. He didn't like the way he felt the year before, and he did an amazing job. Came in. He was in great shape. I mean, we were excited. The coaches were excited, right? And unfortunately, to miss Markstrom, he jumped over him and dislocated his shoulder and had surgery. And to see him work that whole time, him and Pelche together, I give Pelche credit too, but to have two guys that had the surgeries like one day apart, so to be able to kind of work together and push each other the whole time, Kevin did an amazing job, came back, and right now he's playing in kind of a fourth line role, but he's our first penalty kill with backs, and he's done a great job. He really has. He's kind of done what we thought he was going to do the year before, and couldn't be more happy with her, and he earned the extension for sure.
Is that what happened? Sorry, is that what happened in practice? I just saw him go into the boards. He was trying to not collide with Markstrom.
Yeah, he jumped over him kind of. He just wanted to miss him, jumped over him, and he just landed funny into the boards. It didn't look that bad, but sometimes it just doesn't take much.
Couple of last questions.
The first round pick from Vegas has been moved back here. I assume when that condition was included, you were anticipating it being a strong possibility.
Yeah, they expressed that they had a deal that might go through at some point. So we just put a condition. If it didn't go through today, we would have been able to get the 25 tomorrow, or I think the 10th.
Happy with it as a 26.
Yeah, 26, and the one thing about the 26, there's no protections on it, and you just never know. That's one where it could be 1 or 32. You just don't know. So, it's just a little bit longer, but that gives us. We still have two first-round picks this year. Depending upon the Montreal pick, we'll at least have one pick in 25, and then two in 26. So, it's spread out.
How satisfied are you with the draft capital you've been able to accumulate over these trades, and in particular with your first round picks and the situation you have in 25?
Well, yeah, I think the one thing, the picks, you don't know who they are yet or what they're going to be, but they also are if you want to make a move. I mean, I saw how hard it was to get first round picks. So I think if you wanted to make trades, you want to help your team, if you can find a younger player that makes sense on a trade, maybe you do a player plus a first round pick. It goes a long ways to get some real players that you feel like you want. So, I think that's one thing. I think it's as much as they're also a chip to be able to move, but they're also be able to make the pick. So, we'll see how they play out. They're kind of spread out. So we have few, but we're happy with the way kind of our draft board's filled up and gives our amateur scouts a ton of opportunities.
Last question to Darren.
Your 4 in-season trades, 3 in the division, all 4 in the conference. Just stepping back, what are you seeing in this kind of arms race in the West?
It's unbelievable. Yeah, I mean, it's, every call was from the West. I mean, they just felt like everybody was loading up, and because you're always thinking when you're sitting in my chair, it'd be nice to have our guys go out east and not see them as often. But in the end, you have to do the best deals, and it seemed like the West were the most aggressive this year, and you kind of see it even right up to the end of the deadline. If you said which conference made most of the big deals, it was really the West right now.
One last question: can you exhale now?
Yeah, it's a lot different. You think watching Brad doing it, seeing Jay Feaster do it, but it's definitely it's not as much fun as people think either. It's nerve-wracking, and you're dealing with people and family and good people too. So I am glad it's over, to be honest.